So here's a look at what I was doing today. I added these little blocks here, 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 one there and one there, just like I talked about, because my seat back, the ply is going to actually land right on this. So the ply for the base is going to sit on top of these. That's the support, because it won't come all the way back. The actual ply for the seat back will be sitting on top of that. So I've got all of those cut and glued in, and then I put in these little triangular gussets. You can see here, one on each side, just to kind of stiffen these up some. And you know, I didn't like the idea of just gluing end grain at a 90-degree angle without having some sort of side little gussets on it. So I did one on each end and then one on each side of the middle supports here. So just working on seat bases. This is the rear seat. The front seat I actually did yesterday. Today this is all cured up, so I came and used my plane and knocked these down to this angle. You can see how they're sticking up right now. Flush back here, but sticking up here. So I knocked them all down, drew my line across them, faired them all down, and we'll take a look at that in the boat now. So hopefully you can see that. The little blocks we glued on, and now they're faired off to match this angle here, which is different from this back angle. This back angle is 12 degrees to match the seat back, or the front cockpit seat back. Anyhow, so it's sitting at 12 degrees. This is slightly different. It's an inch drop over 17 inches. I couldn't tell you the angle, I didn't measure it. But so you can see I've got all of those faired down now. One of the last things I have to do on these seat bases is fill my tiny little holes. You can probably see there's one in this gusset, one in that gusset. There's two per each one of these blocks, and then all the ones that I use to assemble the outside. So I'll get this pulled back out of the boat. I'll get it FAMO wood plugged all up, sanded down, and then it's ready for an epoxy coat. And tomorrow this one will be cured up and I can do the same thing to it. So making good progress. So as you can see, both seat bases are back out of the boat. You can see a little bit of sanding dust on this one right here. But I sanded the top down, the bottoms down to get any drips that were on there. Sanded all that off. And then the face all the way around it to smooth them all up. And then I put the second coat of epoxy on it. I just finished, so it's very, very wet. But you can see the gloss on it. Turned out pretty dang good. So these are, I'll let these cure up. Then tomorrow I'll wash them down with hot soapy water to get all the amine blush off of them, and then I'll set them in the boat. And just like everything else, they'll need a UV protection coat of some sort. But construction of the seat bases is done. All the fill work's done, encapsulation done. So making good progress. Well, we've got the seat bases setting back in here now. I took a few minutes to wash all the amine blush off of the dash and carlings and seat back, because I still hadn't done that. I did the same with the tops of the armrest. I haven't done the sides, but just washing it all down. I did the same back here on the rear cockpit dash, seat back, carlings. Obviously we've got this rear seat base or seat frame setting in. They're not screwed in yet. And then I spent a little time tonight putting this piece of mahogany, real thin veneer, wrapped over my transom knee. So now it's all African mahogany back there. And I'm going to do the transom's not quite 2-inch thick, really close. I'm going to do a stainless piece. You know, the width of that transom is thick, basically. From up here at the top, real thin, probably, you know, 1/16 or so, and I'll form it bent around to cover this up here. So when the top deck's on, there'll be a nice stainless strip that covers all that there. So again, there'll be no exposed marine ply end grain anywhere. But anyhow, did that tonight. Turned out pretty good. So real quick, I just wanted to show these. These are 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch. Adhesive mount, black is the color. They come in a 100 pack, and we use these a lot at work. What they're known as is a zip tie anchor, and this particular style, originally these are adhesive back. They have a little sticky back you can peel and stick them wherever you want. But I've had mixed results with the adhesive. You know, if you get a really clean dry surface, they'll hold good. Sometimes they fall right off. So when I ordered these, I ordered them with a single hole in the center so you can screw them down. So I'm going to peel the sticky back and place them all where I want them, and then I'll come back and run a single screw, a stainless screw to the center to make sure they don't fall off. But this is what I'm going to use to help me harness in the boat. So basically you stick them where you want, and then your zip ties, if I can do this one-handed, slip through it like so. And then you can you just put them right in line with your wire run, and run all your wires through here, and then pull the zip tie around and zip them tight. And because this is screwed, or adhesive, it won't come off. And basically it's a really nice way. They're very compact. These are the 3/4 by 3/4. Again, they sell them in 1/4 by 1/4. They sell them in inch by inch, and they go up from there. But basically we're going to take these little guys, and there'll be one basically here, and about 6 inches here, and about 6 inches here, and then all of my wires will be nice and clean, zippy tied, all in one nice bundle down them. So if you're going to order these, I highly recommend getting them off of Amazon. This pack, this brand right here, it was $17 for 100. I priced the same thing through a local residential, commercial, electrical store. This same bag of 100, granted probably not the same brand, but 100 of them in the same size was $400. $4 a piece, whereas I got 100 of them for 17 bucks. So if you're going to use these anchors, these zip tie anchors, get them off Amazon. You'll save yourself hundreds of dollars. Well, we now have 3 more painful holes. The little guys for the stainless screws are 3/32, and then the bigger one for the actual Pitot tube to go through is a 1/4 inch. And it's actually, that tube is a pretty snug fit in a 1/4 inch. I still need to take it back out, pull the tube back out, and I'll epoxy the 1/4 inch hole and the screw holes to make sure that they're good and sealed up. But just test fitting it. I wanted to keep it above the water line. It's probably about 5 to 6 inches above the water line on the transom, but close enough that I didn't have to put a bunch of ugly clips to hold it. It's self-holding between the stainless little Pitot cap up here and where it mounts on at the bottom, self-holding. So that's good. And then I've just got it loosely, you can see it here, just kind of loosely sitting in here. Ran all the way up to the back of the Speedo. This is all my excess. And once I start putting my little 3/4 by 3/4 wire zip tie anchors down the sides of the boat, I'll work my way from the back forward, making sure this is all nice and snug and ran really clean. And then when I get up to the front, then I'll cut that tube back to the actual length. Obviously we've got about 5 or 6 feet of excess there. But I hooked up my compressor, and I've got this little blow nozzle here, and I blew air across the Pitot like it were water flowing, and you could actually see the needle on my speedometer move. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this all together, but I'll give it a try. Oh. Yeah, I just about can't do it. Anyhow, the speedometer is functional now. So here's a look at what we were doing today. I added this piece here. My transom is 1 inch and 13/16 thick, and the top of the transom was the same 12-degree angle, because this is 90 degrees here. The top of the transom was 90 degrees to the face of the transom. It put this top at a 12-degree angle, which is actually different than what the top deck is. It's a different angle. So what happened was, looking from the side, well, you can see it right here, how this is normal, and then once we get to the transom, it's got a different angle. You see that? So, laying a straight edge on here, down the side, and projecting that line out, it was about 3/16 low on this side. So what I did was I cut a piece of African mahogany. It's actually 1/4 inch thick by 1 inch and 13/16. And then these are my little temporary blocks. You can see I've got the 16 gauge brad nails. I just cut little blocks in there and put 3 16-gauge brad nails in 5 places on each side. Hopefully you can see that okay. So what I'll do is after this cures up, I'll pull my blocks back off of here, and then I'll take a tenon saw laying straight on here, and I'll cut a tenon groove, which will end up being flush back here, and out on this side it'll end up being about 3/16 taller than this line. So that'll project that angle of the hull all the way out to the back. Basically, I'm just adding a spacer onto the very corner here of the top of the transom, and that'll be angled down to 0 where these meet. So then what I'll do is after I get these blocks pulled and I get that all faired down to the correct angle, then I'll come back with a 1/4 by 1/4 piece, the same length, and I will attach it to this very edge. So there'll be a 1/4 by 1/4 strip all the way across this edge, so that when I bring the marine ply deck over the top of this, it'll actually butt into that. So when you're looking from the back of the transom, you won't see exposed marine ply, the end grain. All you'll see is this mahogany. And it'll end up being since this is a 1/4 and we're adding a 1/4, it'll be a 1/2 inch all the way across the back. It'll be mahogany that'll cover the end grain when that top deck butts into it, instead of running the ply all the way out to the edge and exposing that end grain. So after that, after all this dries, I'll get these pulled, I'll get this faired down to the right angle, 1/4 by 1/4 put on there. And then we'll get, when we start doing the top deck and button that into it, then the overlay veneers of mahogany that go on here will cover right over the top of that mahogany ply joint. So looking from the back, it'll just look like all mahogany. No exposed marine ply or end grain to ply. And then you can see where I ended these, right where my motor well is. So then from this point all the way across up to this point will be that real thin piece of stainless covering all of that, and it'll look really clean in here. But that's what I did today, making good progress. See, I've got, because there's a kind of a hard corner right here at the top, this back here is fairly straight, very, very slight curve, but up here it curves kind of hard. I had to add a clamp underneath of my blocking with a block up here and a block across to get extra pressure to kind of pull that side down. But you get very, very, very creative with clamping methods when you're building a boat. So that's where we are, making good progress. So everything's dried up and I got the clamp off of here, and this is what it looks like without doing anything to it. And then we'll swing over to the other side and you can see it faired down now. Hopefully you can see the little wedge shape where it's flush back here. It's about 3/16 on this side. And there you can see there's a little gap here. I need to fill that in, but when I epoxy all that, it'll cover it right up and look nice. You can see here the frame where it's flush down on this corner, and then it gets fatter out here. And this is just a wedge-shaped shim, hopefully you can see it there, to project the angle of the hull. So we'll take this as a generic straight edge and lay it on here, and you can see now that that's a straight projection. Then we'll come over to this side, stick it on top here. It's straight clear out to the edge of the transom. Same up here, set it on here, straight all the way out to the edge of the transom. Whereas without that wedge on there, it had a little more than an 1/8 inch gap. So we had to add that wedge on there so that when the plywood goes on, it's perfect. It doesn't have to, you would have had this obvious lump at the back of the boat had I not done these wedges. And this isn't something that's in the Glen-L plans. It's just something that, you pick up on when you're fairing the hull and making panels fit and things like that. Where there's angle changes, you got to do stuff like this. You got to put in wedges and things like that to make everything line up right, or creative sanding. One other thing I could have done, if I so chose, was I could have cut this carling a little bit deeper, you know, an end about an 1/8 inch low back here, and then faired all the transom back. This is basically the same thing versus fairing the whole top back. I just add a piece on and fair the piece. But there's a before and there's an after. Really nice square looking meet up now. Making good progress. Time to do the other side. So today I was installing my little 3/4 by 3/4 zip tie anchors. So what I did was they're spaced about 7 inches. Every 7 inches there's one. So I went ahead and figured out my depth to put the wires at the exact center line of this hole here. And that's how I started setting the depth. And then I marked out 7 inches and started peeling them and sticking them. And then I came back with a number 6 by 1/2 inch stainless flathead screw and installed one screw. You can probably see it back there behind the zip tie. But I installed one little screw in the center of each one of those just in case the adhesive were to fail. They're on there for good. They're not going to come off. You could take all of the adhesive off and screw them down with that alone if you wanted to. But so I've got, you know, this rear section of the boat clear back to here. I don't have any wires yet that are back here, but there will be. I did across the back of the rear cockpit dash. I've got a few in here you can see to kind of keep everything up above and tucked nice. Again, all the zip ties are incredibly loose. So as I add wires, I can pull everything through, and then I'll come back after all my wires are to their destinations, and I'll start sucking all this up and making a nice clean bundle for my harness. So that's what I was doing today. You can see I went down this side over here because my 4-gauge wire run is on this side. So, but it's going to work out just right. You can see everything's loose. But it's turned out really good. So on this side, the port side, I'm from the back of the boat. You can see my Pitot pickup tube here. From the back of the boat up to where we go through the dash here, we have all of our little clips installed, our zip tie anchors. So working on wiring today. I also pulled the Pitot tube back out and epoxy encapsulated that hole. Let it cure up overnight, and then ran my Pitot hose back through it. So making good progress. Well, it's officially September 1st, 2016. For the month of August 2016, we went up 17.5 hours total. Last month, for August, we spent $20.97 on the zip. And that was just basically for my wire ties, for my zip tie anchors, some stainless screws to attach them. So $20.97 and 17.5 hours. We went up 4.25 hours on the seats this month. We went up 2.5 hours on the epoxy coat. We went up 6.5 hours on deck framing. We went up 3 3/4 hours on electrical. So just a quick update of those. So that $20.97, that brings us up to $6,214.87 invested in the zip. And our 17.5 hours brings us up to $517.5 total invested. So let's see where we are. So I did something in the last week that I really wish I would have done quite a long time ago. And for some reason, you know, I considered it several times and I never did. But if you notice now, I have pulled the wheels and tires off of my trailer and lowered the entire thing about 6 to 8 inches. Same with the front. I took it off of the jack wheel and set it on a piece of 2x4. After I did that, I double checked to make sure it was level left to right and also front to back. Left to right, it's still pretty much dead on front to back. It's a little high in the nose still, but really all of the main construction stuff in here is done. But I was just trying to get it as close to level, or at least check to see how level it was. It's pretty damn close, so good enough. I really wish I would have done this sooner, lowered it down, because man, it is so much easier to reach over and work on all of this stuff. You wouldn't think that, you know, 5 to 6 inches of height in the boat makes that big of a difference, but it does. So where we are, this month we've been working on, you can see the wire runs here. Obviously we've been putting our little zip tie anchors in, putting the stainless screws in, zip ties in, and getting wires ran. I still have a few wire runs to do. You can see there's still nothing back here, and there will be. I did spend a decent amount of time behind the dash, kind of cleaning everything up here. So you can see how the wires will come through here. They kind of drop down underneath. That's on purpose because my rack push-pull steer system comes right through here and through that hole, and I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to run any other wires in here at all. Nothing but the steer cable, because I don't want my wires to get chafed on with that steer cable. So that's why they drop down below like this. And there's no set measurement from how high, you know, maybe off this deck beam that everything is. It just varies where the wires were going to look the cleanest and run the best. So it just kind of flows with the boat, with the gauges, with obstacles that are in its way. None of this stuff again is finished. Some of the zip ties I've snugged up, but again I have to add more wires to this, so I'll be coming back, clipping them, and adding wires and a new zip tie to it. So this is all temporary, but you kind of get an idea of how things are going to look. This is my little receiver box, again for the LED lights inside, and you can see the little receiver down here, the IR receiver. So what I've done is it kind of loops around, and it goes to one of those anchors, again a zip tie anchor back here, and it just hangs down below the dash. There you can see it. You see the little black square back here? That's my IR receiver for the remote for the LED lights. It's out of the way. It's not going to get kicked or bumped or hammered. But, you know, looking in the boat, chances are you're not going to see it unless you actually look way down in there to see it. But it's in a safe spot. So I was working on that, and I spent, you know, 3-4 hours just kind of adding all of these zip tie anchors behind the dash, getting everything kind of cleaned up. You can see how now wires come out of this, what will be the main harness, and split the particular place they go. These wires continue, this one splits. So making good progress. You can see now I've started to zip tie my runs all together. But there's a good chance that, at least behind the dash, that I'll have to snip most of these to add extra wires to them. So at the moment, I've used 51 of these zip tie anchors. 51. So slightly over half a bag. Basically to hold or build the harness on in the zip. Just kind of give you an idea of roughly how many I've used, and that's basically 6 to 7 inch spacing. But again, it's getting cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, but it's not done. We're making good progress. With any luck, we could finish up this harness next month or this month. You can see everything is loose here. We've got our Pitot Tube, just pretty close. It runs underneath here, and then you can see it split down and into my main feeds here. It just kind of runs along with those and then splits off right over to the back of the Speedo. But everything down this side is still loose. You can see everything down that side is still loose. It's still hanging here. I've got to do my little aluminum crossbar. But we're getting close. Getting close. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, rate, and comment. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next update of Building the Zip. All right. Today's adventure. It's going to be fun.